This is Damon Fordham, Adjunct Professor of History at Charleston Southern University, as well as the Citadel, as well as a published author and historian. And this morning I'm going to talk to you about a little-known event in American history, as well as a little-known event in the life of one of the great leaders of American history, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. You see, there was a time when Dr. King was very despondent. He had tried to lead a nonviolent march for the right of union workers. But then there were these agitators and infiltrators in the crowd that started to riot and smash windows and things of that sort. And police got out of hand, and thus it was a total disaster. And he did what he could to stop the march and left. Well, this led to accusations that he fled away like a scared rabbit and encouraged the violence in the first place. And he called a press conference to say that no, this is not the case. He always said that he would never lead a violent march, and so therefore he did what he could to disband the march. He did what he could, basically. So, along with this, the city put out an injunction preventing him from future marches. So his lawyers went to court, and one evening while he was standing out and watching the night air and enjoying the sights around him, his friends and lawyers came back with the good news that the injunction had been lifted and that he could go ahead and have his march to protest the low pay of the union workers in this particular city. Well, so he was there enjoying himself when a car pulled up with two individuals. One of them was a person who is now world famous, his mentee, the young Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, along with a saxophone player named Benjamin Branch. So Jesse got out of the car and looked up to Dr. King, and Dr. King said, "Well, Jesse, who is that you have with you today?" And so Jesse replied, "Dr. King, this is Benjamin Branch. He is a local saxophone player, and he will play at our rally tonight." And so Dr. King replied, "Well, Ben, it's a pleasure to meet you, but one thing I gotta say to you before this evening is out, that when you go to the rally this evening, I want you to make sure you play Precious Lord, and play it real pretty." Benjamin Branch smiled and said, "Yes, sir, Dr. King, I'll do just that." Ladies and gentlemen, those turned out to be Dr. Martin Luther King's last words. He was shot on the balcony right after that, and things just all broke loose. Many people were angry in the country, and they took their anger out on their cities by burning them, and a lot of looting and mayhem and so forth. And it was a tragic time all around. And since Benjamin Branch was there as all this happened, he felt a very heavy burden on his shoulders. So he went to Chicago along with Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he pondered in grief over what was happening and wondering what he could do about it, and he came to an idea. He took the Operation Breadbasket Choir, the choir that the organization that young Jesse Jackson led, called Operation Breadbasket, that was getting employment for African Americans in Chicago. And he went to the studio and he thought about what Dr. King said. "Make sure you play Precious Lord tonight and play it real pretty." And he took those words and he played Precious Lord with all his heart and soul, and it turned out into a very beautiful recording. And then he started recording other great songs such as "We Shall Overcome" and "Let Us Break Bread Together" and other such things. And it came out into an album that was fittingly titled "The Last Request," after the last request that Dr. Martin Luther King made on that evening before he was assassinated. And the album did quite well, and Reverend Jesse Jackson wrote the liner notes to it, and you can still find it if you look hard enough on various websites today, and you could also download the music from various websites too. Now, having said all of that, Ben Branch taught us a very important lesson. Oftentimes we face difficulties and we find it difficult to go on with what we have to do because of the grief that we may face over the loss of a loved one or a setback within your personal life. But Benjamin Branch did the best that he could do by looking inside himself and taking his wonderful talents and remembering the last words of Dr. King to play Precious Lord and play it real pretty. And he did just that, and he made an album of intense beauty that can still be enjoyed by anyone to this very day. So, ladies and gentlemen, having said all of that, this is a great lesson for all of us right now. We all go through portions of despair. We all face setbacks in our lives. But very few of us have had to deal with something as earth-shattering as watching a great leader get killed right in front of you and knowing that you were the very last person that he spoke to. But yet, he did that and made something out of all his grief and despair. So to say all that to tell you, to look inside yourselves and take whatever grief and despair you have, and to take all of that ugliness and let it energize you and energize your talents to build instead of destroy, and help take all the terrible things of the world and take them inside of you and do something to help make the world wonderful. This is Damon Fordham talking to you about the great saxophonist Benjamin Branch and what he did under one of the most tragic circumstances in American history to create a thing of beauty called an album called The Last Request. Even though you may not be able to sing or play the saxophone like Benjamin Branch did, see what you can do to take ugliness and make the world beautiful. Thank you.